Towards the end of this video, I'm going to give you guys exact buy points. And when I start looking at this market in more detail, this is not financial advice, but I like to recommend exactly what I'm going to do so that people can have some success themselves and pretty much piggyback the information off of my information. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I was talking to my friend and he told me that you probably should just, smash the like button for that. And if you are new to this channel, consider subscribing to the #1 cryptocurrency channel on planet Earth. I might not be the #1 right now, but I promise you, over a long period of time, this effort and hard work will pay off. I try to keep integrity, honesty, and everyone might not like it. Let's go into some macroeconomics. What's happening in the world? This is one indicator that's very interesting. It's basically showing the ownerships of stocks and like the average household. Now, it's increasing and you might think, oh, wow, there's more investments into the economy or there's more investments into stocks. This is a good thing. But actually, it's not. It's historically been an indicator for the top of the stock market. And you can see that we passed, the dot-com bubble. If you don't know what that is, it's basically tech stocks that were overevaluated. And it showed as a signal to the top of the market. And we see it higher now. So stocks, crazy. I'm not getting involved. I'm going to do what the minority of people are doing. I'm not going to follow the majority. That's typically how it works. But this was also a very interesting article. It basically compares the M2 monetary supply, which if we come over here, it's basically just showing M2 is a measure of the US money stock that includes the M1 currency and coins held by non-bank public checkable deposits and traveler's checks plus savings deposits. So basically it's kind of evaluating the money in people's hands and not in like debt or traditional finance, right? And it's basically looking at the GDP, gross domestic product, which kind of indicates the growth of the economy. And what it's basically showing is that pre-2000, we actually got more bang for our buck. And this is the yellow dots here, but you can see we're on a decline. The amount of money that passes through people's hands, like you and me, the velocity of this money is falling. We're getting less of it. And it's being acquired by, for example, as you can see here, US Treasury bonds, AKA debt financing. It's corporate buybacks. Pretty much the money's being locked up in situations we can't control. And depending on if you believe in modern economic theory or Keynesian economics, or if you believe in Austrian economics and supply and demand principles, it just depends on how you view it. And a lot of people don't even have the research. And I'm in no way, shape, or form an expert in any of this. But what I do believe is that when somebody has control over the monetary supply and they could do things like this and the velocity of money is falling, the amount of wages we have, which brings me to my next point, this can be skewed. It's very hard to keep up with inflation. And if inflation's diluting the purchasing power of the United States dollar, then how are we going to get rising wages? How are we going to get people to get paid more, right? Which would make it, the only reason this would work is if wages rise, right? If the amount of money people make increases and the cost per goods increases, it's kind of like a wash. And this is how kind of they're playing with these variables in modern economic theory. And it's really interesting to watch. But basically, guys, look, if inflation becomes a bigger problem, it's kind of, if you have United States dollars, if you have USD and your savings account, you're automatically losing money. And you need to pay attention to that. You need to pay attention to the cost per goods. Things are getting more expensive. I'm pretty sure you could already see that if you're in the United States, right? Things are obviously getting more expensive. Now let's talk about the cryptocurrency markets because this climate is obviously a positive thing. In general, macro conditions, it looks like a positive thing. Like what's happening to cryptocurrency's price? Well, it looks like they might be, I wouldn't say attacking it, but I will say they're making moves on Bitcoin. Right now, there's a lot of regulation. You can see that Binance got banned from some credit card payment networks. They banned debit or credit cards. You see it over here, suspending deposits from European payment network from Binance. Now, this is really important because you got to understand that other exchanges look at this, right? Other institutional investors that want to buy a large sum, $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, they want to make sure regulation is in favor of their investment decision. That's one of the biggest reasons why these large places will adopt large amounts of crypto. I'm not talking about retail. I'm not talking about, small movements in price. I'm talking about quantum leaps that you can't even see in charts. You wouldn't be able to distinguish this type of information in charts. Looking at the history of Bitcoin price is pretty much irrelevant in these situations. So I think it's really important to look at regulation, right? And you can see that Binance is being hit from all sides. Now, I think in the short term, this is obviously a bad thing for Bitcoin's price or cryptocurrency in general. But I also think that Binance is a little bit sketchy when it comes to, like, for example, 100x leverage or 50x leverage. And I do think that to a certain extent, they need to stop taking advantage of people, right? I've talked about this over and over again. People kind of like put my information on the back burner when I said like leverage is really close to a scam because, guys, look at it for yourself. This volatile market's going to wreck a lot of investors, and especially if you don't know what you're doing. But on the contrary, this regulation could be a positive thing because as you can see here, we see some banks adopting it. You can see Bank of America is getting a new research team. You can see specifically Goldman Sachs is close to offering Bitcoin and other digital assets to its wealth management clients, right? You can see Citigroup launching digital. You can see adoption in general, and we usually see this in bear markets. Now, I don't want to, be the Debbie Downer, but I'm just saying, when you see these big organizations and banks moving on crypto, but at the same time, there's regulation and there's a clear dying effect from retail. The average person, I mean, look at over here, Bitcoin's, search term is dying. Ethereum search term is dying. When the average person starts to step out, when we see major institutions step in, this is actually a good sign long term. If you look at, the innovation that happened in DeFi, for example, most of the innovation happens when there's nobody there. It's easier for them to upgrade networks. It's easier for people to move. It's just so much better for growth in general. And we typically see this. We'll see Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies get like 100% adoption, 90% of its hype. That's just the way it works. Bubble pops. But that last 10% is real growth. And this allows for the next hype cycle. There's going to be hype cycles in crypto. That's just the way it works, right? That's why if you think on longer term time perspectives and broaden your horizon in this market, you will typically do much better. Okay. So just pay attention to what I'm saying. It's very important, guys.